One man, one mission, to rid the world of chronic anxiety once and for all. The Anxiety Guy, Dennis Simsek, shares his personal transformation from living a life filled with overwhelming worry to becoming a full-fledged positivity machine, a leading authority in generalized anxiety. Dennis gets to the truth of your mental health challenges and sets you on a path to transforming each and every area of your life. Here he is, the one and only, the Anxiety Guy.
Warriors, welcome. This is episode number 187 of the Anxiety Guy podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Simsek, and I hope that you're enjoying the second podcast, the Health Anxiety Podcast Show. If you're listening through iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, it's all there. Check it out. If you are currently suffering from health anxiety or have a friend or family member in need. Warriors, today I'm going to be discussing what you need to know about your past traumas and anxiety because I get a lot of questions. People are very, very confused as to what a trauma is. Have I ever experienced a trauma myself? Have these traumas been stored within my nervous system? Are they showing up in my present life? Are they going to show up in the future? You know, when you go to a physician or you go to a naturopath or you go to an energy healer, many times you don't hear so much about past traumas. And so there are practitioners out there around NLP and certain mentors that have mentored me in the past that work with trauma. So what is a trauma? A trauma can be abandonment, neglect, natural disasters, exposure to verbal or physical violence, accidents, falls when you were a kid, illnesses, sudden loss. I mean, the list goes on. It could be a difficult birth. So a trauma can be anything, pretty much, right? Anything that has with it an emotional level that is highly intense, almost to the point of being overwhelming for the conscious mind. Now, when we go through these traumas, what happens is it leads to freezing in fear, which leads to the creation of these traumatic symptoms. These traumatic symptoms may not be visible right away, but they may show up and manifest much later down on the road. So, in the present moment, you could very well be experiencing the traumatic symptoms based around the trauma that occurred years ago. Heck, you could even be experiencing the traumas that you didn't even experience. If you look back on past generations, your father, your mother, your grandma, your grandfather, if they experienced traumas in their lives, it could have very well been passed down towards you. Now, this is why trauma work is so important. You'll see people go from one specialist to the next, trying every herb in the book, every medication. They'll do everything that they can in their power, but they just can't seem to feel better. We're talking about traumas that are stored in your nervous system, your subconscious mind. Now, the energetic blockages in the body based on past trauma is due to the inability to fight back, say your piece, release the anger, or run from, escape from the situation. This may be the most important thing you needed to hear today. When the experience happened, do you know why it's a trauma? Well, it's a trauma and it was overwhelming to the point that you may have even experienced an attack of some sort because you weren't able to utilize the fight or flight response. If you just would have been able to fight back, I'm talking verbally fight back or physically fight back, or if you were able to say your piece, release the anger, release the fear in some way, if you were able to escape from the situation, it wouldn't have been stored as a traumatic experience. Because the system that you have within would have done its job. It would have been completed. But because you weren't able to express yourself, fight back, or run from the situation, it got stored for future recall in case similar situations showed up in the future. You needed to hear this today. So the question is what's the process, Dennis? What's the process? Here it is. The process starts with arousal, okay? In the moment, you're highly aroused. You're emotionally overwhelmed due to the situation. It all starts there. Then after you're aroused, what happens is there's an unsuccessful escape or an inability to verbally or physically fight back around what's going on around you. So you're aroused, and then there's an inability to do what you really wanted to do. And warriors, how often were we unable to do what we wanted to do when we were children? Unable to speak up, unable to act, unable to fight back, unable to say our piece, unable to run from the situation. Trauma. After that unsuccessful escape, what happens is the experience of total helplessness shows up, and intense fear accompanies that helplessness. You've been there. I've been there. We've all been there. Then there is a complete immobility. We call this the freeze and shock response. You are frozen. You're in shock. And you'll see this with animals. When an animal is being chased, let's say a deer is chased by a lion, at some point the deer pretty much goes into the freeze response. And when he freezes, he stops running. And this is a response, a system within, because if he freezes, there's a good chance that the lion won't eat the deer because he doesn't want to eat an already dead carcass. Interesting. So this response is within us. We are frozen in time. And today in the present moment, your system doesn't realize that the experience is over. It believes it needs to stay sensitized just in case, because there's never been a renegotiation around the trauma. You've never been able to look at it through a different pair of eyes. You've never been able to renegotiate what happened in your mind, in the images that you run in your mind. So how do we get to freedom? Emotional reframing. Immobility shows up, the arousal shows up, and in your mind, in your visual images that you're running, and with the emotion that will back it up, you begin running from the situation. You see it in your mind, you're picturing the movie, you're going through the experience. You begin running from the same situation that happened, or you fight back. I can't tell you how many times when I work with people through the End the Anxiety program and Life Mastery program, how many times they've been able to picture in their minds the experience that they wish they would have had, and the symptoms begin to go away. So there's a successful escape or a successful response which leads to empowerment. And when empowerment shows up, the system is no longer sensitized to what happened. This podcast might be the most important episode you can listen to. Download it, listen to it multiple times. I need you to understand your traumas better, and I need you to understand how to renegotiate or reframe what occurred. I love you so, so very much. Remember, you are more than anxiety. I'll see you in the next podcast episode. Have a wonderful day. You deserve it.
Thanks for being an important part of the Anxiety Guy podcast community. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a positive rate and review. If you're searching for further support on your road to recovery from anxiety, head over to anxietyexit.com and take part in the powerful End the Anxiety program based around the CBT model. If you're searching for a more one-on-one approach, you can sign up now for personal coaching sessions with Dennis via Skype. Remember, you are more than anxiety. See you in the next episode.